you should watch this movie. And that's a sinister laugh because I know it's not good. Hey guys, Victoria here, and welcome to the Geeky Sandbox. So, this is my Twitch setup, but today we're going to be talking about the top 5 worst movies I've seen this year. Ooh, there are some in this list that I completely forgot were here. So, I have officially logged 122 movies this year. I wanted to make sure that every single movie I saw that I logged, whether it was a rewatch or something I was seeing for the first time, right? But we're going to try to rank these. I'm going to have to go ahead and start with The Strangers Chapter 1. It was a choice to do this movie in general, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with someone taking on the challenge of remaking an iconic story. So this movie is based on the original Strangers movie from 2008, and the whole thing is this couple have this very like kind of up and down kind of relationship. They have this getaway at this cabin, and someone knocks on the door at about 4 a.m. or whatever, and they keep terrorizing them the whole night. The whole big thing is they're doing it because they can. There's no particular reason. So when you come into frame with something like The Strangers Chapter 1, 2024, I was thinking Chapter 1 was just like this one little thing, but no, it is the first of many parts, I'm being told. I think so far they only have 2 parts planned, but the director talked about doing 3 and 4 parts, so I'm kind of a little nervous about that. This is supposedly something that takes place. I thought it was before everything that happened with the original Strangers movie that was from 2008. But timeline wise, this doesn't make sense because Madeline Petch, who's amazing, she gives her all in this movie. It's one of those things where she has a cell phone, but like it's like the timing doesn't really match up with the iPhone she has. And so I'm a little curious about when this movie is supposed to take place. Canonically, these characters are dead. They've all been killed based on the last Strangers film. So I'm very curious as to when exactly does this take place, right? But like I said, I think it was supposed to take place prior. So going into this movie, I was very optimistic and I wanted it to be so good, and it just wasn't. I love a good home invasion movie, but what I don't like is an exact copy and paste. It doesn't really do anything, it doesn't add anything, and it doesn't do anything for me. The ending felt very cheap. It just felt unnecessary, like they were getting ready to set up not prequels, but sequels to the prequel or additional chapters. And so, like I said, Madeline Petch did a really good job in her role. I just felt like the character was written terribly. It probably was the most infuriating horror movie that I've seen in a long time. Imaginary was another movie I gave a 2-star. Like, I feel like a lot of these that are on the 2-star ranking, I wanted to like them a lot more than I did. And so that's what's a little disheartening. It just fell apart for me. Like, I get what they were trying to do, and I applaud them for trying to do a little bit more of an innovative, original idea. Granted, this is something that we've kind of seen before, at least bits and pieces of it, but I like that they tried to do something a little different with it. But I feel like the choices that were made were highly unrealistic to the point where I was just kind of like, it took me out of the movie. Night Swim is actually the first movie that I saw this year, and after seeing the short film, I was very much so excited just to kind of see what they were going to do with this film. And they have all these like really cool actors, and there's a lot of pressure there, right? I felt like the thing we were supposed to be focused on and worried about kind of got sidelined a little bit, and then all of a sudden the mother, who is the ultimately the protagonist of the story, she all of a sudden becomes important when like we're in the third act. And I don't think that's a bad way to execute a movie as long as you're leading up to that and there are things that justify that. But it felt like she was very much so in the background and sidelined until she needed to jump into action. The movie wasn't compelling or fun. I don't know, like the concept is cool, like I talked about the original short film. It looks like the actors had a good time. It just felt like they could have gotten more out of that story. So it wasn't the most exciting way to start off 2024. This might ruffle a few feathers, but this one, it's, I don't know, the whole idea, this concept is really super cool, and it's nice to be able to take a backseat as the audience member and you're following this killer, right? I do feel like if you're going to spend 80% of the movie following this killer, it feels weird that the last 20% is us following the protagonist. It kind of makes the movie feel a little weird towards the end. Like they didn't know exactly how they wanted to achieve that ending. They just know that they wanted her to feel like she was always looking over her shoulder, which is totally fine. But then I feel like then, you know, the POV thing kind of like falls to the wayside very, very quickly. But I thought that some of the kills were like super, super cool. The best way to describe this movie, it was fun until it wasn't. I feel like the gimmick of following the killer at a certain point got kind of old, and I was wanting something a little different. But maybe that comes from, you know, me always watching horror movies from the other side, right? There's music, there's action, there's conversations between the characters, and there's like, you know, I just, maybe that's just a me thing. But this definitely was not my favorite movie of the year. A few honorable mentions that I want to shout out. Tarot definitely should have been lower, but it's still in that the top movies that were not great this year. There was so much potential. I thought this movie was going to be absolutely completely garbage, but it was just kind of bad. It definitely follows similar like formulas to other movies and stuff like that, and I feel like it was a very safe movie. Characters avoiding death just for laughs didn't make sense, but I feel like they could have done so much more with this idea. Visually, the movie is really cool. The idea is cool, especially if you're someone who likes tarot or you use tarot cards or things like that, or if you're curious about it. It's interesting just to kind of see those things come to life, but it's just, there's nothing for you to grasp on in terms of the characters. I could have cared less about any of them. This is a movie that I have never watched again. So 7A, the whole tagline of "there was one before Rosemary," I think hurts the movie because people are going in thinking about Rosemary's Baby and things like that. And I think this movie could have stood alone on its own without being this predecessor to Rosemary. But I think because it tried to lean into Rosemary's Baby and follow some of those similar plot points, it shot itself in the foot. They kind of wanted to tell this story about Amy, but like I do feel like they centered Blake quite a lot, like her ex. So this movie felt less about the music and what Amy wanted, which was to be remembered and being seen. But I feel like we're kind of perpetuating that idea of the turmoil that Amy went through, and like having the movie end in such a dark place, I think it's a bit hurtful, considering we all know how Amy's life came to an end, unfortunately. So I was hoping the movie was going to do something a little different. This was a year of biopics for me. I also saw the Bob Marley biopic, which was a better movie. It's more interested in showing us that maybe Blake wasn't a bad guy, but I that's not why people are coming to see Back to Black. They're coming to see it for Amy, not for this like redemption arc for Blake, if that makes any sense. Trap, I gave a 2.5. Steven gave it a 3 out of 5. I saw this movie twice. I just feel like the M. Night really wanted Josh's character, who is the murderer in this movie, to get from point A to point B. And that's what it feels like. But it feels like any logic between A and B, it's not there. There's no logic. I feel like a lot of choices that his character makes when he's supposed to be this very seasoned killer out there, it feels like it's just in the best interest of the script to get him to point B that he makes this decision. And I get that when you're under pressure, you make some of the dumbest decisions sometimes, but I'm like, this is a seasoned killer. I doubt that he's like letting his guard down even for a second when he knows he's being hunted. So I feel like some of the things that they decided to do with the script just seemed completely out of character just to get us to the desired end. Huge congratulations to Madam Web for being the worst movie of 2024 for me. I can't believe it. I mean, I can believe it, but I completely forgot how low I rated it compared to some of the other stuff I saw. I completely thought Night Swim and some of the other movies I mentioned that were 2 stars were going to be the worst. I forgot this was a 1 star, 1.5 star. This movie really got sent out there to die. The marketing was bad. The interviews surrounding it was bad after the fact, or just before the fact even. The ball was fumbled even pre-production, and there's just a lot of things that weren't great about this movie, and it sucks, right? Because this movie has such an iconic character that I feel like they could have done so much with her. Even if her heart was in it fully, it can't fix the way that Sony delivered this movie. But yes, guys, if you like this video, go ahead and give me a like rating down below. And yeah, let me know what's your worst rated movie of the year and what movie is your highest rated movie of the year. But yes, guys, stick around. We are going to talk about our top 5 favorite movies of the year next. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.